Hello and welcome to episode number 9 of Health and Humanity with Dan Voss, a health podcast show centered around living healthier lifestyles and improving our human connection and relationships. Before we begin, I'd like to ask you, if you've enjoyed this episode and you're enjoying this podcast, please share it with your friends, especially if you know of someone that is into health, into improving their lifestyle and living a better life. I would greatly appreciate you sharing it with them. Okay, so today we are discussing a podcast interview between Ben Greenfield and Dr. Jason Fung. A few years back, Ben had Dr. Jason on his podcast to discuss his new book, The Complete Guide to Fasting: Heal Your Body Through Intermittent, Alternate Day, and Extended Fasting. Dr. Jason Fung is a nephrologist, so he's basically a kidney expert. And this book is basically a guide to fasting. It's Fasting 101. Many people consider it to be the best guide to fasting. There are hundreds, probably thousands of different diets out there, but they all have at least one thing in common: moving the dial for improved health. And part of that comes from fasting. It's universally spread across religion and different diets, and fasting has been known to help with weight loss and eliminating type 2 diabetes, if you do it the right way. So hopefully this episode can help you if you're interested in the idea of fasting, or you're looking for alternate ways to lose weight or help with your type 2 diabetes. I hope that this can help you. Once you get into the rhythm of fasting, you actually get used to it because your body takes the calories it needs from your stores of energy, which is your body fat and glycogen. So it's a completely natural process. People often think that it's so hard to go without food for 10 hours or 24 hours or even 1 week. But once you get into it, it does become much easier. Dr. Jason Fung doesn't eat breakfast a lot of the days of the week, and I actually don't either. I basically do intermittent fasting for 10 to 16 hours each day. So basically, I don't eat from 8 p.m. until the next day around noon. I'll stop eating after dinner, and then my next time I'm eating is around anywhere from 10 to 1 p.m. the next day. We have this idea that breakfast is the most important meal of the day, but honestly, that's just marketing that's pushed to us by the big cereal companies. And if you think about it, kids are usually not hungry in the morning. That's why kids will often push away breakfast in the morning. But then we end up eating breakfast over time because we were told as kids, and we are now telling our kids, you got to eat breakfast. Eat breakfast. It's the most important meal of the day. And then it becomes habit for the rest of our lives. And by the way, if you like to eat breakfast, that's fine. But you don't have to eat breakfast. But if you do, just avoid the processed, highly refined foods. Avoid cereals and Pop-Tarts and bagels loaded with cream cheese, even though I love a good bagel with cream cheese. That sounds delicious. So keep in mind here that we're the least hungry around 8 a.m., even though we haven't eaten in, let's say, 10 to 12 hours. But if you think about it, the word breakfast is to break your fast. You can break that fast at any time. It can be 6 a.m., 10 a.m., noon, 1 p.m. It's really up to you. But we have this narrative that once we wake up, we must eat right away, or even that we must eat all the way up until we go to bed. But that is just not true. So I mentioned that I do about 10 to 16 hour fast each day, and I actually feel like I have more energy throughout the day. And there's a few reasons why. So Ben and Dr. Fung, they go into the health implications of when we stop eating, basically the whole process of what happens to the body during periods of fasting. And there's a process of storing food energy, and then there's a process of burning food energy. And this comes from many physiologists, and many of these studies are very old. If you take a lot of carbohydrates, for example. It gets turned into glycogen, it gets stored, and then if there's too much glycogen, then it'll start storing it as fat. Okay, so phase number 1 in this whole process is the eating phase. When you eat, insulin goes up. Insulin is a hormone, which essentially is a nutrient sensor. It tells your body that you need to store food energy. This is why you don't die when you go to sleep. It's because your body can store some of this food energy so that when you're not eating, it'll bring that energy back out. The body has 2 storage forms of energy. Number 1 is that it can store glycogen. And when that's full, your liver can't hold any more, so it turns to storing fat. Another thing to keep in mind is protein. And protein is not stored as energy. If you take lots of protein, your body will use some of it to build actual protein, but the excess protein just turns into glucose. Okay, so then you have phase number 2, which is the fasting phase. From 0 to 24 hours of no eating, your body needs to pull energy from somewhere, so it turns to your glycogen store. Your body will continue to burn glucose up to about 24 hours, and then at about 24 hours, when the glycogen stores run out, the period of 24 to 36 hours, it'll start breaking down some protein in your body. And then after 36 hours, fat oxidation starts to take over. So the body lives off stored fat from then on. And that's essentially the state of ketosis. Okay, so here are some key takeaways about fasting overall. And there's a segment from the interview that I want to read verbatim because it's just too good for me to try to put it into my own words. So Dr. Jason Fung, he says, if you continually eat all the time, you don't have that breakdown. That breakdown is very important. In medicine, for example, for new bone, you don't simply have the bone just sticking around. There's actually a continual cycle of renewal, of breakdown and regeneration, breakdown and regeneration. And this is what fasting does. It gives you that period of breakdown and regeneration. So if you look at studies of alternate daily fasting, for example, they've done studies where they've compared calorie restriction with alternate daily fasting. And over a period of 32 weeks, they've measured lean mass at the end of it. And in fact, the calorie restriction people, their lean mass percentage went up by 0.5% because they had lost some weight. But the alternate daily fasting people went up by 2.2%. So in other words, the fasting group was 4 times better at preserving lean mass. So Dr. Fung, he compares this to renovation. If you're going to renovate your home, your kitchen, your bathroom, if you renovate it, you have to tear some things down first, like cabinets, tile, carpet, etc., before you build it back up to something new. Okay, so another great takeaway from this is that we have little spikes of growth hormone in our body during periods of fasting. Essentially, eating turns off growth hormone, and these hormones actually activate the body. You know, people often say if you don't eat, you're going to go into starvation mode. It actually is the complete opposite. People come back from fasting and they say, man, I have so much energy. And really, it's because your body is pumping you up with energy from stored fat during these fasting periods. So in a nutshell, fasting, it burns fat, it pumps you up, it gives you more energy. Also, keep in mind that not everybody needs to fast. It's not easy, it's not fun, but why not use it as an option? Okay, so for those that are interested in fasting, let's take an extended fast like 24 hours. Okay, so during 24-hour fast, for those first few hours, you might get hungry. From like 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., you're very hungry. And then later in the day, that hunger passes. You know, everyone assumes when you don't eat that hunger grows and grows and grows, but that's just not true. So the key takeaway about fasting overall is this. It's a natural cleansing period. You're giving your body the chance to break down and regenerate, which for many of us is a good thing. Okay, so that's all I have for today. Again, if you've enjoyed any of this, please share it with a friend. If you know someone that's interested in improving their health and their lifestyle, and maybe somebody that's expressed interest in fasting, please share this episode with them. You never know how much it might help them. And if you're watching this on YouTube and you're new to the community, please subscribe to the channel and comment below saying that you just subscribed, and let me know how this has helped you as you begin to give fasting a try. I thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a great day.